Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I have to admit, I'm a little sad today because this is the week where, for the last 4 years, I've been attending the Adobe Summit over in Las Vegas and covering live from the Venetian Hotel. And this year was going to be even more special because it had merged the event with Magento that Adobe acquired a few years ago. But of course, we all know what happened next. But that shouldn't mean it's the end. I mean, the show must go on, and Adobe's decision to host the summit virtually is a great move. So I'm going to be attempting to take some of those conversations I would normally be having face-to-face and reach out to some of those people virtually too. So I'm going to continue to focus on the latest technology and digital experience advancements. And for that reason, I've invited the guys from a company called Mindtree onto the podcast today. And Mindtree is an Adobe Specialized Business Partner. And I invited them on today because I want to explore emerging digital customer experience trends, the technologies around that, and also solutions and how businesses are leveraging them to reach that ideal destination of becoming experience-driven. So I'm still locked down here in Birmingham in the UK, but in high spirits, of course. Today's guest, Anshuman Singh, is the General Manager and Head of Digital Strategy and Consulting at Mindtree, and he's locked down in London. Sure, we're both sad that we're not in Vegas having conversations on the show floor at the Adobe Summit. But as I said, the show must go on, so let's get him on the podcast right now. So a massive warm welcome to the show, but can you just tell the listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Neil. My name is Anshuman, and I work for a company called Mindtree, and we are well known for solutions within the digital services space. In fact, we call ourselves Born Digital, and I'll explain in a minute, what that means. As far as, I am concerned, I have a, unique, at least I think I have a little unique background in the technology industry. So I right now lead Mindtree Interactive, which essentially looks after designing and building customer experience, partner experience, and employee experience solutions for our customers. And I lead that team within Mindtree. But I come from a very unusual background. I studied architecture and I studied product design. And this was way back when .com was just beginning to, pick up. And I said, well, if we can design physical products for people, we can also design software products. So I switched disciplines. So from suddenly being an architect who was aspiring to do architectural product design, jumped into doing software product design, and here I am.
Wow, what a great story. And how difficult was that transition? I imagine it would be, but do they two worlds have much more in common than many might imagine?
Yes, actually, yes. So I think whenever I talk about this, it sounds quite a dramatic shift, from the industry which involves, building, construction, concrete, and everything into software. They sound like two worlds very, dramatically apart. But I think my transition was much more gradual. So after I finished architecture, which is essentially a design discipline, I said that thought maybe do a little bit of product design, and I thought there is enough room to explore architectural product design, because if you look around yourself, almost every product has been designed by someone, good or bad aside, but it's been designed by someone. So started studying design, and then realized that the software around us, and especially those days, was awful, and there was enough room, and this discipline, which we might now call user experience design or human-computer interaction design, was just about to pick up. So many of the similar principles applied that you would apply to product design. And now if you look at it, what started as a career in designing screens in a way, the world has come a full circle, and now we are designing information technology products. They're physical products on which, maybe your watch, maybe your phone, but these are devices in your hand. So there is a bit of product design, there is a bit of industrial design, there is a bit of human computer interaction design, and it's all coming together now.
And you did mention a few moments ago that Mindtree has got this born digital mantra. Can you expand on that?
Sure. This story is, almost, we are now 20 years in the business. And when we started, or when the company was founded, it was founded on the belief that, technology can really be leveraged to create solutions, e-business solutions that will help businesses do things differently or do different things. So one of the fast forward 20 years, we talk about digital and digital transformation, and unlike many other companies that have been in existence for maybe 40, 50, 60 years, we were born at a time when technology was really being used to help businesses and societies flourish and create different solutions, different things. Now, it also required a very different mindset. It required a mindset, what you might describe as a being digital mindset, is that you should be able to design solutions that can solve a business problem. It is done in a manner that is appealing for the end user or consumer, or solves a problem for them. And it is done using a technology and makes it feasible. That's how feasibility, viability, usability came together, and what we now know as design thinking. But it was built into the ethos of our company, because we started in an era where more and more things were moving over to the internet, whether these were shops, partner portals, where you provide educations to students, etc. And it therefore meant that you need to bring in not just technology smarts, but also a very deep understanding of the human behavior, but also a business savviness to make sure that whatever we are building is built in a manner that gives return to the person who had put in money into it. And to be able to do this in not a 2-year, 3-year long periods of time, but quicker, faster sprints. So that's why we say that we are born digital. Our mindset and ethos as a company isn't rooted into age-old disciplines of how to leverage technology, but much more modern outlook. And that's why you say we are born digital.
Now, we're both locked down in the UK at the moment, but of course we should be preparing to fly out to Vegas for the Adobe Summit. But I've got to ask, what were your expectations for the Adobe Summit this year?
I think, we were really looking forward to the Adobe Summit this year, more so because, personally, I have always used Adobe products. And I think many of us, even if not in the technology industry, would have heard of Photoshop and whatnot. But Adobe has really dramatically changed their game over the last few years. They have started building platforms that help businesses connect to their end customers, whether these are websites or e-commerce platforms or many other different products. Now, at this point in time, the industry is at a cusp where experiences are increasingly getting powered by data. And what Adobe was about to announce in this summit, and we were really looking forward to see more demonstrations, more ideas from experts around the whole topic. Now, it is easier said than done when we talk about data powering experiences, because today, if you look at it, most of the websites or most of the engagement platforms or apps rely on, if any, very simple means of personalization. And for many sites and many applications, there is no personalization whatsoever. Now, in order to drive personalization, it's important that it is done at the right time. Now, it's easy to drive personalization, 2 hours, 3 hours later, but it's a lost opportunity. You need to provide a personalized experience the moment the customer is in front of you or on your website. Now, the biggest challenge there is how do you harness, petabytes of data to be able to drive a personalized experience? And I'll give you an example, right? If I go onto a website, it is very easy for a website to say, hey, Mr. Customer, because you bought, X, and I know that because I have your order history, you might be interested in Y. And you can do that personalization fairly quickly, right? But you will not have the capability to understand on the fly that where did I land from? Was I actually looking for something on a, let's say on a fashion magazine blog, and I really like something, and I followed a particular path on your website, showing my interest in, let's say, in a certain combination of apparel or certain types of color, and using that insight, which has been collected in last, let's say, 30 seconds, are you able to personalize my experience on the page that I'm about to click on? Now, these kind of capabilities did not exist or very hard to do. And Adobe was, is really bringing this together as AEP, Adobe Experience Platform. And that was the big announcement they were about to make in Summit. And this is really, really exciting because this can really help a lot of our customers harness the power of data that is sitting with them about their customers, but also tap into real-time behavioral data and personalized experiences. And the two would have come together, fantastically well.
And for many people listening, they won't be aware of Mindtree's partnership with Adobe. So can you tell me a little bit more about that and explain also how Mindtree support and accelerate Adobe's capabilities?
Sure. At Mindtree, we have been building and using Adobe products for a very, very long time. And what we have been doing as a company is we have been actively investing because we really think that when it comes to digital and digital technologies, Adobe gets it. And they are bringing in the right set of capabilities, whether it's experience, design and provisioning, or it's real-time personalization, or providing it at a scale on cloud. Now, so Mindtree is a platinum partner for Adobe, and Adobe has various partnership levels, and platinum is as high as you can get. So I've been actively investing both in terms of capabilities, training, certifications, etc., to build this capability within Mindtree. Now, what that means for our customers is that we are therefore able to provide Adobe-related solutions or design those solutions and services at scale to our customers across a bunch of products that Adobe has to offer. For example, there is Adobe Analytics, which can help you measure experiences. There is Adobe Experience Manager, which is around delivering experiences across various touch points. And then there are, Adobe Target, Adobe Campaign, there's a publishing suite, there's Advertising Cloud, and so on and so forth. Now, because we are invested in developing capabilities within Adobe, we are also therefore actively investing in and building accelerators, which can help our customers jumpstart their programs on the Adobe platform. Now, these come in various shapes and form, whether it's about personalizing a shopper's journey real time, or if it is about moving the current Adobe implementations to more modern cloud-based systems, whether it's about being able to generate insights from the customer behavior on site, or if it is about leveraging our accelerators on creative production. So companies spend a lot of time and energy in what we call from shoot to site, which means from the time pictures or videos get shot on location to the time they show up on your websites and various other touch points. There's a lot of time, energy, money spent, and there is a big demand for compliance around it. So we build accelerators to help accelerate the journey of our customers on various Adobe initiatives.
Back to the summit just for a moment. Obviously, it's going to be taking place virtually this year. What would you expect the key themes to be discussed during the virtual sessions, do you think?
The summit has now moved to be completely online.
Yeah.
So it was a 3-day full packed agenda. Now, of course, it's a reduced agenda, and we fully don't know what will come. But our best guess is that there would be a series of announcements around the AEP platform, specifically focusing on how customers can leverage Adobe Experience Platform, but also the new capabilities that it will offer to help customers do real-time personalization, real-time segmentation, to get a real feel of what's happening within their digital estate. I think that would be one of the biggest underlying themes within the AEP side specifically. We also expect some announcements around because a lot of this real-time personalization requires you to have a much more superior infrastructure. So we expect some announcements around the whole the cloud angle, or the strategy to deliver these solutions on cloud. We expect some of those to come by, and on the periphery, the Adobe has also been working on few very, very interesting products, both in terms of delivering augmented reality, for example, but also some of the creative apps that they have been actively investing in. And as a side, Adobe has come up with this really cool painting app called Fresco. If anybody is passionate about painting or sketching, should definitely give it a shot.
Excellent. And of course, one of the things that I'm going to miss from the Adobe Summit this year is just spending time with other people and hearing about those top emerging digital customer experience trends, technologies and solutions right across the board, and having those conversations with different people. So as I can't do that, I'm going to ask you as if we're on the show floor there. I mean, what do you consider to be the top trends there?
There are a few big trends that we think will start unfolding as we move forward. The first one we spoke about is your ability to do real-time personalization, and that really hinges on the vast compute power that is available to our customers in general. Now, that of course will require many other kinds of skills for you to be able to, for creative people to be able to work with data scientists so that you can drive better, more real-time personalized experiences. So real-time personalization is one big trend that we are hoping it will come in. The second big trend that we are seeing is what we call as personalization at the edge. And by that, what I mean is that so far, if you look at most of the personalization that was driven, that happened on the server. So when you search for something, let's say on Google, the results are personalized for you or the city you live in, but those results are coming from the server. But increasingly, we are noticing that a lot of intelligence is moving towards the edge. By that, the simplest example of that is when you look into your iPhone and it has Face ID enabled, it will unlock the phone. That intelligence is within the phone. It's at the edge, as opposed to, let's say, your banking app, which when you log in, it is authenticated against the servers of the bank, which might be sitting thousands of miles away. So intelligence at edge will allow you to power experiences as you haven't been able to do before in 2-3 different big ways. First and foremost, I think devices in general, whether these are phones or cameras or infrared sensors, will be able to understand and interpret more than they have been able to do in the past. And in the bargain, they will be able to deliver, different experiences that we haven't been able to do so far. I'll pick a case in point. So we work with a leading paint company, and it is now possible for us to be able to do real-time, augmented reality, walkthrough of my living room and say that what it might look in, copper orange. And it is unlike, picking up a picture and just changing the color and say what it might look in copper orange. But this is a real-time visualization to figure out. You can think of many other use cases. You can think about, how you might be able to deliver an AR-powered experience like this to a driver of a new car who has rented a car in a remote location somewhere and can't figure out where the ignition is. But you can do a lot of that now. The third big thing which will transform a lot of these experiences is, and it's still some time away, is the notion of 5G. As 5G comes in, it will start unlocking and opening up many other use cases or trends that we don't see today, both in terms of powering video-based experiences or augmented reality experiences on your devices than you see today. When you couple this with better bandwidth, your ability to do real-time personalization with IoT and edge, you would find that the experience has really moved out from a website or a phone and is now all around you. It's ubiquitous. We spoke about ubiquitous computing many years ago, but now it's really coming to fruition.
And there will be many business leaders listening to this podcast, and they've heard all about the power of the customer experience. But when it comes to investing, they want to know about ROI and things like that. And of course, you can only improve what you can measure. So I've got to ask, how do you measure successful customer experience? Is that something you have any experience with?
Sure. I think, this is a fantastic question, because I think in most businesses, when you speak about customer experience measurement, it eventually boils down to a survey that might pop up while you are looking at the website or after you are done with a particular transaction. And I think while it has its value, I think it has a limited value as far as measuring customer experiences are concerned. In our opinion, you need to be able to figure out you need to take a customer journey led approach to measuring customer experiences, and I'll explain what that means. Within our company, what we try to do is that most of our customers are conversant or are aware of the notion of or will have an existing customer journey or customer journey map. Now, what's important is to pick up that customer journey and start figuring out how you are going to measure it. So we start by first figuring out that what are some of the top level metrics that you would typically use to report to some of your senior stakeholders, saying that this is how we are noticing a marked improvement in our key KPI. So, for example, for many customers, it might be the customer satisfaction index, or CSAT, or it might be known by different names in different companies, but it might be customer satisfaction index. Now, customer satisfaction index gets determined by many different levers, and these levers change depending on where are you in this customer journey. So, for example, if you are a customer who's an existing customer trying to complete a particular task, your biggest driver to drive customer satisfaction is how well a service is designed and provisioned, right? So that's really your driver. Now, within that driver, as a user, you might have a specific task to complete, which might be, let's say, for argument's sake, I am trying to log into my account in order to create a new payee so that I can pay money to somebody. So there might be a specific task. and you should be able to measure the ability or speed at which somebody is able to complete that task. So identify that task would be the next big thing that you should be able to assess and look at. Once you have a fair amount of understanding what are those key tasks, you would then think about that what would make a customer feel really happy or really satisfied if I'm able to do this task particularly well. In certain cases, it might be the creative output. In other cases, it might be the speed at which you can complete the task. And in another case, that driver might be something else. So being able to tie a top level metric down to the drivers, the touch points, the task, and the key contributors to the success of that task becomes extremely important in figuring out how do you measure customer experience. And one size will never fit all. So you can't just take an approach of saying that, I'll pop up a CSAT questionnaire at the end of the transaction and ask people how did they feel about it. But really see it through a lens of the customer jobs to be done and how do they correlate back to my customer satisfaction index.
Excellent. And there's so many different reasons I was excited to get you on here today, because there's so many big topics that you're working around, and especially around technology trends. And for example, at the moment, there's a lot of businesses leveraging AR or exploring leveraging AR to enhance customer experience. That's a company that's had a lot of experience in that field. What is the immediate impact of AR, and also how are companies innovating with augmented reality too?
I think the two biggest reasons why AR is about to take off is one is that more than earlier, our phones are now capable of being able to handle much more of the AR technology that is available. So most of the new phones that we have with ourselves have an AR kit built into it, and that can let you do many fantastic things. And if you want to, I'm sure most of us would have tried downloading various apps and playing around with all manner of apps to try out the AR capabilities. So that's one. The second is that the data connectivity is just going to go through, grow leaps and bounds very quickly, especially with 5G coming in. And a combination of these two will really help AR to really, kick off. Now, if I put my, design hat on from the past, I think computing was always, a level of abstraction in users' hand, right? So when, for example, if you had to open a file, somebody had abstracted that as a desktop on your computer and a little file folder, and you tapped on it and it opened, and then you opened your Word document and so on and so forth. So computing was always one level of abstraction onto your desktop. What AR does is that it almost brings computing into the real environment, and you can see things as they are overlaid on your real environment as opposed to a layer of abstraction on your desktop. Now that starts to open all kind of use cases. While the early set of use cases were mostly in the remit or domain of customer service, or specialist support, or surgeries, etc., we will see more and more of that coming into the mainstream consumer space. And a good way to start thinking about it is that, again, go back to your customer journey and see where are the opportunities to use augmented reality to help my customers make easier, better decisions. So for a hotel room, it might be that, can I experience the hotel room even before I have checked in? In a B2B context or business-to-business context, your prospective buyers can actually see and investigate the equipment that you sell better before you show up at their doorstep with that heavy piece of equipment. Or for a car company, you can really experience the car. So that's really the awareness phase. When people start getting into using that particular product, for a hotel it might be a hotel room, for a car company it might be a car, so on and so forth. How do you make it more interactive? for that customer? Can I discover what's in my room? I'm sure we have all checked into hotel rooms and then trying to figure out, how do I switch on that particular light or switch off that light before I go to bed? Or getting into a new car in a new country and can't figure out how to start it or how to reverse it. Or having a new product in our hand and we can't figure out how to use it. So in the phase where a customer is using your product, you can find AR-related use cases to make it easier for them how to use it. And of course, then there are multiple of use cases that you can think about, customer service and repairs, etc., where you can bring in expertise which is remote for example, there's a complex piece of machinery sitting in front of you, and I'm not a very skilled person to be able to repair it or fix it. But it is possible for me to wear augmented reality, headsets or glasses, etc., so that a remotely located technician can help me solve the problem that I have at hand without having for me to wait for long or for him to travel or for us to spend money in bringing that technician on board. So, I think the possibilities are endless when it comes to AR, and I think it's just about to take off.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. There's so much more I'd love to go and discuss with you, such as smart SEO, but I think we'll save that for another episode and get you back on here. But for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about Mindtree, can you just remind listeners of where they can find you guys online?
So you can find us online on www.mindtree.com. And we are also on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, on all social media.
Well, I'll add all those links to the blog post that will accompany this episode. Like I said a few moments ago, thoroughly enjoyed talking about all the latest tech trends, how you're using them, how you're helping businesses, talking about the Adobe Summit. But more than anything, I think I really, really enjoyed hearing your backstory and how you transition from one world to another. It's truly inspirational. So thanks for joining me today. And I'd love to get you back on in a few months and we'll do it all again. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Neil. And it was a pleasure talking to you. And, stay safe and we'll talk soon.
Like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, Mindtree, we're set to showcase digital solutions to help travel, hospitality, CPG, BFSI companies, and help them all optimize their digital transformation journeys. And sadly, that event was made virtual only. But that is why I think it's so important to still have those conversations. So I cannot thank him enough for coming on today and sharing his valuable insights with us all. So I'll add links to Mindtree, etc. on the blog post that will accompany this episode over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. If you go to the top, go to podcasts, you should find today's guest and links to everything. Equally, if you scroll straight to the bottom, you'll see links to all the social channels where you can send me a DM, follow me, connect with me. All I ask is that you say hello and that you listen to the podcast so I know exactly who you are, because it's all about connecting with each other. And if you're not a social media kind of person, you would sooner just have a good old-fashioned email conversation, send me an email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. And if you're feeling really lonely and caught living on your own, stuck in four walls and just want a break, let me know and I'll happily have a Zoom conversation with you. We can have a one-to-one chat. So I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did, but we're not done yet. We're going to keep everyone smiling throughout the next few months and beyond. So join me again tomorrow. But all that's left for me to say is thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.